Explore one of Asia's richest countries, where men can have up to 4 wives at the same time. Curious about which country offers this unique lifestyle? It's Saudi Arabia. Located on the Arabian Peninsula, this nation isn't just known for its golden sand dunes, but also for its rich culture and distinctive laws. Did you know Saudi Arabia is the only country in the world without any rivers? Join us as we uncover 13 interesting facts about Saudi Arabia. Number 13. Men can have 4 wives at once. Have you ever dreamed of having a harem with 4 beautiful, devoted wives ready to cater to your every need? In Saudi Arabia, the dream of having multiple wives can actually come true. According to Sharia law, a Muslim man can marry up to 4 wives as long as he has the financial means to support all of them and treat them equally. Polygamy is a long-standing tradition in Saudi Arabia and is considered part of Islamic culture. However, behind the allure of a 4-wife harem, there are many secrets and hidden aspects that not everyone knows. Historically, polygamy was seen as a solution to problems such as ensuring security for women, maintaining family lineage, and balancing the sex ratio in society. The Saudi Arabian government once encouraged polygamy to increase the population and address the issue of single women. Some wealthy men take additional wives to display their social status and increase their wealth. Providing for 4 wives and many children requires significant financial resources, which can lead to conflicts, jealousy, and discord within families. Additionally, not all women accept sharing their husbands with others and may face pressure from their families and society. In recent years, the Saudi Arabian government has taken steps to limit polygamy. Men are now required to have sufficient financial capacity to support their wives and children before being allowed to marry. Furthermore, the court can refuse to allow further marriages if the man cannot prove a valid reason. Today, polygamy is not as common as it once was in Saudi Arabia. Many young Saudis, influenced by globalization and modern values, increasingly see monogamy as more realistic and fair. Many young women do not accept their husbands marrying other wives, preferring an equal and happy marriage. Despite its legal status, the practice remains a subject of debate and evolving attitudes within the kingdom. Stay tuned as we shift focus to a regulation that might surprise you just as much. Number 12. Women are prohibited from opening the door in Saudi Arabian households. There's a secret ban. Women must disappear whenever male guests arrive. This practice stems from strict Islamic traditions, where women are required to cover their faces and dress modestly. Women are forbidden from appearing before male guests, and if they need to communicate, they must use the phone or other indirect means. To enforce this rule, many homes in Saudi Arabia are designed with 2 separate entrances, one for men and one for women. When a male guest visits, he uses the male entrance and is greeted by the male host, while the women stay out of sight. If they need to communicate or request something, they do so through a phone or other indirect means. This practice is based on the belief that Saudi women are symbols of purity and chastity, and should be protected from the gaze of strange men to maintain their purity and prevent any inappropriate behavior. It's thought that by keeping women hidden, the temptation is reduced, preserving social order and traditional gender roles. While this regulation may create some inconvenience, particularly in communication and social participation, it reflects the country's adherence to its cultural and religious values. So, why do Saudi women vanish when male guests visit? It's all about maintaining respect, purity, and traditional roles within society. Understanding these customs offers a glimpse into the unique and fascinating culture of one of the richest countries in Asia. Number 11. Women were prohibited from driving. Saudi Arabia has long been known for its strict regulations surrounding gender roles. One of the most notable and controversial rules was the prohibition on women driving. This ban, which began in 1990, stood as a stark symbol of gender inequality and a direct challenge to personal freedom. The driving ban was justified by citing reasons such as protecting women and preserving tradition, but it faced fierce opposition from both the international community and Saudi women themselves. For decades, this restriction was seen as a major obstacle to women's advancement in society. In addition to the driving ban, women faced significant hurdles in using public transport, often requiring the presence of male guardians or private drivers for mobility. The situation began to change in 2018 when the ban on women driving was finally lifted after years of advocacy and struggle. This significant step forward allowed women to obtain driving licenses and access public transport more freely. However, many challenges remain. Women often need international driving licenses and, in some cases, still require male supervision while driving, making the act of driving a symbol of both newfound freedom and lingering control. Despite these advancements, there is still a long journey ahead to overcome cultural barriers and ensure full participation for women in all aspects of life. The history of the driving ban in Saudi Arabia underscores the broader issues of gender inequality and the ongoing efforts needed to achieve true social progress. But that's not the only challenge women face in Saudi Arabia. Let's explore another critical aspect of their lives. Number 10. Women must have a guardian in all cases. Have you ever wondered what life is like for women who are restricted from traveling, studying, working, or even seeking medical care without permission? In Saudi Arabia, this is the everyday reality for millions of women under a strict guardianship system. Under Sharia law, women need the consent of their male guardian, usually their father, husband, brother, or adult son, to participate in any activity outside the home. This regulation acts like an invisible cage, constraining women's dreams and aspirations. The simple joy of exploring the world and experiencing new cultures is a luxury that remains out of reach for many Saudi women. Pursuing education, gaining knowledge, and achieving personal growth are pathways fraught with obstacles because women must rely on their guardian's approval. Seeking career opportunities and contributing to society becomes a distant dream as the ideal job seems unattainable without male consent. Even in matters of health, women must obtain permission from their guardians to receive medical care. Supporters of the guardianship system argue it protects women from a society filled with risks and preserves traditional values. They see it as a vital part of their culture. But is this truly a valid reason to limit women's freedom? Does keeping them in a protective cage really ensure happiness and safety? Or does it simply reinforce male dominance, stifle women's development, and uphold an outdated social order? Recently, Saudi Arabia has made some positive changes. Women can now drive, participate in certain sports, and hold leadership positions. Yet these changes haven't fully dismantled the guardianship system. The path to gender equality in Saudi Arabia remains long and challenging. Number 9. No public displays of affection and no Valentine's Day in Saudi Arabia. Public displays of affection and Valentine's Day celebrations are strictly prohibited. As a deeply traditional Muslim country, Saudi Arabia forbids actions like hugging, kissing, holding hands, or even walking closely together. Valentine's Day is banned nationwide because it contradicts Islamic values. This can be a shocking and upsetting experience for visitors, especially couples. The religious police, known as the Committee for the Promotion of Virtue and Prevention of Vice, strictly enforce these rules. They have raided stores selling Valentine's Day items, seized goods, and fined owners. This reflects the country's commitment to upholding cultural and religious norms, despite recent modernization efforts. In Saudi Arabia, excessive displays of affection are seen as indecent and disruptive. Tourists must adhere to these rules or face serious consequences, including fines of up to $800, arrest, and deportation. This aims to preserve social norms and protect women, but it often leaves tourists feeling restricted and uncomfortable. These regulations are controversial and limit personal freedom, causing tourists to feel constrained when expressing affection. The vague definition of excessive emotional expression can lead to misunderstandings, making visitors hesitant and affecting their experience in Saudi Arabia. From social rules to dress codes, let's see what Saudi Arabia requires its citizens to wear. Number 8. No shorts and women must cover up. This Muslim country is renowned for its strict dress codes for both men and women. In Saudi Arabia, clothing serves not only to cover the body, but also as a symbol of culture and religion. The code is particularly stringent for women, who are required to wear an abaya, a long black robe that covers the entire body. Many women also wear headscarves to cover their hair and neck. In more conservative areas, women may wear a niqab, a veil that leaves only the eyes visible. These requirements are based on interpretations of Islamic principles and are enforced to varying degrees across the country. According to the public decency law enacted in 2019, men are advised to dress modestly and avoid wearing shorts and tank tops. While there is no requirement for men to cover specific body parts, they must still respect the cultural norms of modesty. Some Saudi men wear traditional clothing such as the thawb, a long white garment, and the gutra, a headscarf. Expatriates and tourists must also adhere to the dress code, although there have been recent relaxations allowing women to wear colorful and modern abayas. The requirement to dress modestly remains. Violating the dress code can result in significant fines and penalties. In 2022, the Saudi Arabian government allowed women to wear sleeveless dresses and sandals, symbolizing progress and modernization. This relaxation not only enhances women's freedom, but also aims to create a more open and attractive environment for tourists. However, the dress code remains a complex issue, with conflicting opinions on tradition and individual rights. The enforcement of these rules varies, reflecting the country's cultural diversity. While many support the dress code as a reflection of Islamic values, others see it as a constraint on freedom. What are your thoughts on these dress code regulations? Do they represent respect for cultural norms, or do they infringe on personal freedom? share your opinion, and join the discussion on this topic. Number 7. No socializing with the opposite sex in public. Saudi Arabia enforces strict gender segregation in public spaces, grounded in Islamic teachings that aim to maintain moral and social order. This separation permeates various aspects of daily life, including educational institutions, workplaces, and public areas like restaurants and parks. Co-ed social interactions are highly restricted, with separate entrances and seating areas for men and women. Unmarried individuals of the opposite sex are prohibited from interacting publicly, reflecting cultural norms that prioritize modesty and avoid impropriety. Violating these rules can lead to severe consequences, including fines, imprisonment, or public lashings. The religious police, or Committee for the Promotion of Virtue and the Prevention of Vice, monitor public behavior to ensure compliance with these regulations. The strict enforcement of gender segregation aims to uphold traditional Islamic values and protect societal order. However, it has sparked significant controversy and debate. Critics argue that such restrictions impede women's social participation and reinforce gender inequality, while supporters contend that it preserves cultural and religious traditions. Recent reforms in Saudi Arabia have introduced some changes, including allowing women to attend sports events and participate in certain public activities alongside men. These steps toward modernization reflect a balance between tradition and evolving societal norms. The complex issue of gender segregation in Saudi Arabia raises important questions about tradition, modernity, and gender equality. Number 6. Gender-specific spaces. Saudi Arabia is known for its strict gender segregation, where men and women have distinct areas for work, study, entertainment, and more. For instance, many schools and universities operate on a single-gender basis, while public places like restaurants, cafes, parks, and even beaches often provide separate sections for men and women, or designate family areas for mixed gatherings. This practice stems from Islamic principles, advocating modesty and the avoidance of inappropriate interactions between unrelated men and women. The goal is to uphold traditional values and prevent misconduct. Supporters argue that gender-specific spaces maintain social order and protect women, while critics claim it limits freedom and reinforces gender inequality. Enforcing the segregation can pose challenges and controversies, especially for tourists and expatriates unfamiliar with local customs. Yet many modern establishments are relaxing these rules, reflecting Saudi Arabia's evolving society and economic integration. Despite ongoing reforms, gender segregation remains a complex issue, balancing tradition and change. These practices illustrate the kingdom's intricate relationship between its cultural heritage and modernization efforts. Next, let's delve into another intriguing aspect of Saudi culture: traditional Saudi cuisine. Number 5. Consuming alcohol is prohibited. Alcohol consumption is strictly prohibited in Saudi Arabia, a rule rooted in Islamic law, or Sharia, which forbids intoxicants. This ban covers not only drinking, but also the production, importation, and sale of alcohol. Violating these laws can result in severe penalties, including imprisonment, fines, public flogging, and even deportation for expatriates. Despite these strict regulations, some people still find ways to obtain alcohol through illegal means. The black market for alcohol exists, though engaging in it is highly risky and punishable by law. The prohibition reflects Saudi Arabia's commitment to Islamic values and societal norms. Supporters argue that banning alcohol helps maintain public order, reduces crime, and promotes health and well-being. Critics, however, see it as a restriction on personal freedom and an obstacle for expatriates and tourists. Recently, there have been discussions about potentially relaxing these rules to attract more tourists and align with ongoing modernization efforts. However, any changes would need to balance respecting cultural values with accommodating the diverse population. This strict stance on alcohol consumption is part of the broader context of Saudi Arabia's efforts to uphold its religious principles while navigating the complexities of modernity and globalization. The kingdom's approach to alcohol highlights the tension between tradition and change, a recurring theme in its evolving society. Number 4. Saudi women cannot marry non-Muslims. In Saudi Arabia, Saudi women are forbidden from marrying non-Muslims, a regulation grounded in Islamic teachings and the country's legal framework. This rule aims to preserve religious and cultural values by ensuring that children are raised in the Islamic faith. Marrying a non-Muslim is seen as potentially undermining these traditions. For a Saudi woman to marry a non-Muslim, the man must convert to Islam and undergo a formal conversion process. This includes studying Islamic beliefs, practices, and values, and declaring the Shahada, the Islamic declaration of faith. Only after conversion can the marriage proceed. Conversely, Saudi men are allowed to marry Christian or Jewish women, as these religions are recognized as people of the book in Islamic tradition. However, such marriages are still subject to social and familial scrutiny, Violating this regulation can lead to severe consequences, including social ostracism, legal penalties, and even annulment of the marriage. Despite these challenges, some Saudi women seek ways to marry non-Muslims, often facing significant obstacles and societal pressure. The prohibition of interfaith marriages for Saudi women reflects the country's commitment to its religious principles and the preservation of cultural identity. This rule underscores the broader theme of balancing tradition and modernity in Saudi society. Number 3. No cinemas until 2018. For decades, Saudi Arabia had no cinemas, with movie theaters being banned since the 1980s due to conservative cultural and religious views. Cinemas were seen as promoting un-Islamic values and exposing the public to inappropriate content. However, this changed in 2018 when the government lifted the ban on cinemas as part of its Vision 2030 initiative to modernize the economy and society. The first cinema opened in Riyadh, showing the movie Black Panther. This marked a significant cultural shift, reflecting the kingdom's efforts to provide more entertainment options and boost tourism. The reintroduction of cinemas has been met with enthusiasm, particularly among young Saudis eager for more leisure activities. The move is also seen as a step towards the more open and progressive society. However, strict regulations still govern the content shown in cinemas, with authorities ensuring that movies align with cultural and religious values. Despite these limitations, the return of cinemas represents a broader trend of modernization and increased social freedoms in Saudi Arabia. The country's evolving entertainment landscape highlights the ongoing balance between tradition and modernity, a recurring theme in its transformation. Number 2. Mecca is off-limits to non-Muslims. Mecca, the holiest city in Islam, is strictly off-limits to non-Muslims. This restriction is rooted in Islamic teachings and aims to preserve the sanctity and spiritual purity of the city. Mecca is the birthplace of the Prophet Muhammad and the site of the Kaaba, the most sacred structure in Islam. Each year, millions of Muslims from around the world travel to Mecca for the Hajj pilgrimage, one of the 5 pillars of Islam. To ensure the spiritual atmosphere is maintained, only Muslims are allowed to enter the city. Non-Muslims found within the boundaries of Mecca face severe penalties, including fines, imprisonment, and deportation. The Saudi government strictly enforces this rule, with checkpoints and signs around the city's perimeter to prevent unauthorized entry. This exclusivity highlights the deep reverence Muslims hold for Mecca and underscores the significance of maintaining its sanctity. While the restriction can be seen as limiting, it also reflects the importance of Mecca in the Islamic faith and the desire to protect its spiritual environment. The city's inaccessibility to non-Muslims remains a defining feature of its religious significance and the broader Islamic tradition. Number 1. No pork products allowed in Saudi Arabia. The consumption, importation, and sale of pork products are strictly prohibited due to Islamic dietary laws, or halal guidelines. Islam forbids the consumption of pork, considering it impure and harmful. This prohibition is based on verses from the Quran and Hadith, sayings of the Prophet Muhammad. As a result, pork is completely absent from Saudi cuisine and markets. Travelers and expatriates must adhere to this rule, and any attempt to smuggle pork products into the country can lead to severe penalties, including fines, imprisonment, and deportation. This ban on pork underscores the country's commitment to Islamic principles and the importance of maintaining religious purity in daily life. While it might pose a challenge for non-Muslim expatriates and tourists accustomed to including pork in their diet, it also encourages respect for the local culture and traditions. In the absence of pork, Saudi cuisine offers a rich variety of alternative meats such as chicken, lamb, and beef prepared with diverse spices and cooking methods. The prohibition of pork products is a clear example of how religious beliefs influence dietary practices and legal regulations in Saudi Arabia. It reflects the broader theme of maintaining cultural and religious identity while navigating the complexities of a globalized world. This rule, like many others in the kingdom, emphasizes the delicate balance between upholding traditional values and embracing modernity. These 13 rules provide a glimpse into the unique cultural and legal landscape of Saudi Arabia. They highlight the country's dedication to its religious values, while also illustrating the challenges and changes that come with modernization and globalization. Understanding these rules is essential for anyone living in or visiting Saudi Arabia, as they offer insights into the nation's way of life and its ongoing transformation.